Welcome to my channel. Timeless narrative. The activities of revolutionary heroism in India emerged as a result of the rise of militant nationalism. Initially, the first phase of revolutionary action was driven by the Swadeshi and boycott movements, which lasted until 1917. The second phase began as a reaction to the non-cooperation movement. After the decline of the mass movement, younger nationalists who had actively participated in it found it difficult to fade into the background. They sought ways to channel their patriotism but became disillusioned with the failure of the established leadership, especially the extremists, who were unable to provide new forms of struggle or direct action that aligned with the growing militant trends. Though the extremist leaders encouraged youth to make sacrifices, they did not create a strong, effective organization or a fresh approach to political work. Faced with government repression and no avenues left for peaceful protest, the young revolutionaries believed that achieving independence required physical force to expel the British. They did not immediately consider organizing a large-scale violent uprising or attempting to sway the loyalty of the Indian Army. Instead, they followed the example of Russian nihilists and Irish nationalists. This led to individual acts of heroism, such as assassinations of unpopular British officials, traitors, and informers, conducting Swadeshi dacoities to fund their activities, and during World War I, attempting military conspiracies in hopes of support from Britain's enemies. The aim was to instill fear in the rulers, rally the people, and remove the fear of authority. The revolutionaries hoped to inspire the nation, particularly the youth, by appealing to their patriotism, believing that it was the youth who would ultimately drive the British out. The extremist leaders failed to counter the rise of these individual violent actions ideologically, allowing them to spread. In the 1870s, Calcutta's student community was already home to secret societies, though they were not yet very active. The first organized revolutionary groups were created in 1902, in Midnapore under Jnanendranath Bosu and in Calcutta with the Nationalist Samiti, founded by Pramotha Mitta and including leaders like Jatindranath Banerjee and Barindra Kumar Ghosh. These groups were initially focused on providing physical and moral training, but their activities remained insignificant until 1907 to 2008. In April 1906, a more radical inner circle of the Nationalist group started publishing the weekly Yuganta and attempted a few violent actions. Newspapers, such as the Yuganta, began promoting revolutionary violence, especially after the police brutality during the Barisal Conference of 1906, which further fueled revolutionary sentiments. In 1907, the Yuganta group made an unsuccessful attempt to assassinate Sir Fuller, a British official. Later in 1908, Praful Chaki and Khudiram Bose tried to kill a sadistic British judge, Kingsford, with a bomb in Muzaffarpur, but instead, 2 British women were killed. Chaki, unable to escape, killed himself, while Khudiram was hanged after a trial. Many members of the Nationalist Samiti, including Aurobindo Ghosh and Barindra Kumar Ghosh, were arrested. Aurobindo was acquitted, but Barindra was sentenced to life imprisonment after being charged with high treason. Meanwhile, other revolutionary activities, such as the assassination of a public prosecutor and a deputy superintendent of police, continued in 1909 and 1910. In 1912, the Juganta group, under Bhaga Jatin's leadership, attempted a spectacular bomb attack on Viceroy Hardinge, though the Viceroy survived. These actions marked the rise of Bhaga Jatin as a prominent leader, and his work extended to areas like Bihar, Orissa, and Bengal. During World War I, the Juganta party attempted to import German arms in what became known as the German Plot. Revolutionaries raised funds through dacoities, and plans were made to start a nationwide uprising, even attempting to spark a mutiny in the armed forces. However, the plot was leaked, and in a confrontation in Balasore in 1915, Jatin was killed, becoming a martyr for the cause. By then, revolutionary activities were already gaining momentum. Papers like Sondhya and Yuganta in Bengal and Kal in Maharashtra continued to spread the revolutionary message. The impact of these activities lasted for generations, particularly among educated youth, although the movement's focus on Hinduism left Muslims largely uninvolved. The movement, too, relied heavily on individual heroism, without involving the masses, limiting its scope. Eventually, state repression crushed many of the revolutionary groups. Before the turn of the century, figures like Vasudev Balwantfodkar had already attempted to start an armed revolt against the British, though his Ramosi peasant force was suppressed prematurely. In the 1890s, Bal Gangadhar Tilak promoted militant nationalism, which included the use of violence, through his festivals and journals. His followers, like the Chapakar brothers, assassinated British officials in 1897. Later, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar and his brother organized Maitra Mela in 1899, which eventually became Abhinav Bharat in 1904. In 1909, the assassination of an English official, A.M.T. Jackson, marked the next wave of organized revolutionary activity. Savarkar became a key figure in the conspiracy, which led to his life sentence. Meanwhile, the rise of extremism in Punjab, driven by issues like famines, high taxes, and the influence of Bengal's revolutionary movements, brought leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai and Ajit Singh to the forefront. However, after 1907, the British crackdown on political meetings weakened this movement. During World War I, Rash Behari Bose took part in the Garda Revolution, aiming to spark an armed rebellion across India. The Gujaratis, a revolutionary group in the US and Canada, sought to overthrow British rule by organizing revolts and assassinations. They gained attention after the Kamagata Maru incident in 1914, where the Canadian authorities turned away a ship carrying Indian immigrants, which created widespread anger. The Garda movement, though initially strong, was foiled by British authorities who arrested many leaders. Following the First World War, revolutionary activity slowed down, partly due to the release of prisoners and the hope sparked by new constitutional reforms. However, the seeds of rebellion had been sown, and the legacy of these revolutionary movements would continue to influence India's path toward independence.